Greetings and welcome to the most recent episode of the Vern and Richard Show. Rich has been posting on LinkedIn again
Outrageous.
and getting lots of questions and comments and observations, and has been going back and forth with people. So, as usual, I don't know what the hell Rich is talking about, so I'm trying to figure out what Rich is talking about. And then we get into the post.
Not true.
It was a lot of fun. Some very interesting observations and takes on what is happening right now. It's almost less about trying to predict what the future is going to be and kind of say, well, what's going on right now? Like, what are we seeing on right now? What have we been doing for the last year and a half, 2 years? And how has that evolved in that time to what we're doing now? And then using that as a basis to slightly talk about the future, but predominantly trying to describe what's going on now.
Absolutely.
Good episode. Anything you want to add, Rich?
Nope. Enjoy, share your thoughts. Like I said, this is how we're feeling right now. It's not facts. It is kind of facts, but it's more opinions and experiences, as opposed to, this is where everything's going. This is just how we're feeling about it now. Because there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of change, there's lots of excitement, but there's also lots of concerns. So let's talk about it. Enjoy.
Yeah. Peace, y'all. Hello.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Vernon.
Oh, go on.
Oh, I thought we were doing it together.
Oh, God.
What a disgrace. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Vernon.
Richard Show.
Hey.
Yay.
Hey, everyone.
Whoop,
whoop. Yeah, how you doing, Vern?
Boy. I'm all right.
You got over the disappointment of the World Cup yet?
No.
Same.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'd very much
football
like
out
to
the way.
see England win a World Cup, or at least compete in the final. Like, compete. I'd settle for glorious failure at this point, like France in 2022, where you're just like, there wasn't really much more we could have done, instead of just a hideous feeling of blowing
Just
it,
falling apart and
falling apart.
I can't.
Deliberately.
I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it, Vernon. I can't. I can feel my blood just. I started it as well, but I've got nightmare. Anyway,
Yeah.
Those of you who normally listen know we usually talk about football, and the whole world's been talking about football. But that was the end of the football now. I've got some new glasses. That's the first thing for me. For anyone watching on YouTube,
Very nice. Very
I can
nice.
see
very
better
nice.
now. Which helps me see the landscape of quality in AI and where it's going.
Oh my God! I got some new glasses a few weeks ago, and I can't see the landscape for the life of me.
Yeah, so we're thinking about talking about a LinkedIn post that I wrote. Not going to read it out verbatim, but kind of theme of the LinkedIn post, and it's got it's got really good impressions and a lot of engagement. So the running theme was, for like the last decade, we've been shouting from the rooftops in our little testing community to be like, hey, everyone should do testing and quality is everyone's responsibility. And, we get annoyed that isn't the case and people aren't listening, and we have conferences and everything all about this topic all the time. But I feel personally, at least where I'm working, that the use of AI now is almost forcing that mentality. So we've been asking for it for so long, but now that AI is here and people are using it a lot more, especially developers to write code, SO to write tickets, I feel it's forced the quality narrative to the top of the pile a lot more than it has done before, because people are suddenly, I don't know, caring a bit more about the output. Maybe not, but anyway. So what I think we've been asking for is now happening. However, the testing community now is also full of, what about my job? Where's my job going? What am I going to do? What am I going to be? What's going to go on there? And I'm not saying they're wrong for thinking like that. They're definitely correct for thinking like that. But what I tried to end the post with is, I think with best, I really genuinely believe strong QEs, estet style people are positioned to be some of the best engineers going forward. And if you've been that more higher test manager, quality manager role, engineering management roles are going to be screaming for people with your quality mindset and testing mindset. So I get that it's concerning, but I feel like the future, you're going to have to wear many hats. There's no choice in the matter. It's just the way I see the industry going. And I really do think QEs and estats have such a bright future, but it's probably going to be more as an engineer or an AI engineer, with quality kind of being your second. No, not your second, it's your core is quality, and that's going to make you a better engineer with the use of AI than potentially some of the engineers that have been engineering for quite a while. Anyway, that's what the post was about. I genuinely do feel strongly about it. I do think I'm seeing that pattern, and the community kind of engaged with it and responded. So we'll stop though and see what Vern thinks of that statement.
So many thoughts. What do I think? I think there's there's so there is there is a demand, or the market is communicating what it wants. I'm talking about employment market, and
Mm-hmm.
what software builders and teams and companies who are relying on software products and services, um, they are asking for things. And this happens all the time, right? So it might be they're asking for cloud skills, or they're asking for agile experience, or they're asking for um, automation, GUI automation skills, or they want some API skill, or whatever it is, right? React or whatever, like literally anything. And I think right now there is this demand to build with and build products that contain AI. So that's the big demand right now. And I feel like there is less demand for people with titles like QA, quality engineering, etc. Tester.
Yep.
I think there's less demand for that, and I think companies are. I can't think of what the right word is. The phrase that sprang to mind is voting with their feet, but I don't think that applies. But but it's the same sense. They're kind of saying, well, we want these skills. That's what we're asking for. And if you don't present with those skills, then you are less desirable as a candidate for employment. But as with anything, there's a difference between what people want and what it is that they need.
Yeah.
And is the market going to change in a way where it will start to say, oh, we need people with a testing skill set such that they will use that kind of vocabulary and terminology? I don't know. I think the problems are still, those testing and quality problems they still exist.
I was about to say, yeah.
They aren't actually disappearing, but I do feel the way that you position yourself is going to have to evolve if you want to stay in the industry. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of people have just said, deuces, I'm out. Like, I can't be bothered. This is insane.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
last few years
definitely.
have been absolutely beyond ridiculous, like
Yeah.
beyond a joke, actually. So for the folks who remain, this positioning and this how you sell yourself and how you describe yourself to prospects, potential employers, clients, however you want to phrase it, I think that is what is going to have to change
It's
before the
almost
market changes.
right, yeah.
That's
Like
what I think.
I 100% agree with what you said about like what people are actually looking for and asking for at the moment.
Mm.
That will change, but I also feel that as the tooling evolves and other things evolve, it the those kind of traditional. I don't want to use the word traditional, but it's really hard not to use that kind of word. But
I
like,
know exactly what you mean.
yeah, those kind of roles, like you won't need someone full time to do those things. So, like you said, the testing needs and the testing that needs to be done hasn't changed. The requirements for building high quality software hasn't changed, but the way we're going about doing it and the way that these roles have been refined or reframed is changing. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at with the post. Like, you might not think that, you're an AI engineer, someone, but like the art of writing a good prompt, very similar to writing a very good test case. None of us like to write test cases, right? But if you've been around a while, you've practiced the art of writing test cases and writing very detailed instructions. Um, and you might not consider that you have strong prompt writing skills because, like, well, I've only written a handful of prompts. I'm not saying that you can go around saying that I'm the best prompt writer ever, but I think some of the leaps to the way these new roles have been framed aren't as big as perhaps people think they are.
Mm.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to encourage in this post, that like don't be put off by where these roles are going because your skills
Well,
aren't dissipating.
on
Like,
the post, I want to read the post verbatim,
go on then,
and
go
then
for it.
I want to ask you why you wrote it. So here's what the post says. It says, testing community for the last 10 years. Everyone should do testing. Quality is everyone's responsibility. 2026. Hold my beer. Developers, SOs, POs, AI engineers are all testing more than they have before. Sure, many of them are utilizing AI, but so are most of the QA/QEs. The use of AI and system utilizing AI has forced quality to the top of the pile, just like we'd always wanted. It's happening now, just like we've pushed for. And yes, it's a change that brings positives and negatives. It seems job losses are high, but new opportunities will come. Many companies still need to go on the journey. The work is out there. It just might be in different roles, slightly different job titles, or maybe you need to wear a few extra hats. This guy with the hats. Quality is evolving right now, and it's never been more exciting, in my opinion. I can't express how much I believe testers/QEs are the best engineers of the future. So a link to this will be in the show notes. But what was going on that made you say, I want to write this post and I want to get it out there?
So, a few things. Firstly, like, we all know LinkedIn's like full of crap, right? But there's a lot of doom and gloom on LinkedIn at the moment around testing QA, QE, right?
Mm,
And I get it based on what we just talked about, right? It's facts. The needs are changing. The things people are asking for are changing, and that is stressful.
mm,
And it is definitely something to be cautious about. But
mm-hmm,
also in my role, or the role I've been playing for the last year, I joined that project to be an AI QA, right? My job was meant to be to write evaluation frameworks, work out what good looks like, and basically learn how to thoroughly test an AI system. But the
mm-hmm,
project went a very different way, right? So I ended up being the software engineer. I ended up building the agents with the help of an AI specialist and an SE. So I wasn't ready for that. I didn't think I was ready for that. I'd not written Python for 12 years or something, and I'd never built a function in Azure. Um, but I was kind of thrown into it. And I realized going through that a lot of my skills make me a very good AI accelerated engineer. Like my attention to detail.
Can I ask
Go
you a
on.
quick question? Are you allowed to say how long you've been in this project doing this kind of work for? Like, I don't know if is it still ongoing? Like, what was the
It's still
time frame
ongoing.
that you
Yeah,
were?
the project
Okay,
started in September, and then I did a few months before that. So for me, it's probably coming up to about
it's
15,
coming on.
16 months doing
It's
this
coming up.
kind of
Yeah,
work now.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and the leap hasn't been as big as I feared, right? I was like, I am not an SE. I do not know. Like my coding skills have predominantly been side projects and automation,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then when you think about the kind of work that people are doing now, when we built software, it was, well, we still do build software, right? But like non AI software, it was very much
Organically
like
written.
rule based tools, right? A goes in, B comes out. You were building like almost processes and flows that have been determined by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're building an agent, you're almost like you're designing the automated test. Like, what is the end to end flow for this agent? What does it need to consider at this step and that step? Very much
Uh-huh.
like you would write a test case or you would write an automated test. So for me, the transition to designing and working with agents felt very smooth. And then the coding side of it, I'm not an expert coder, but I've been around code enough to know what good code looks like. I know the patterns that we should be using because from being a tester and a QE and an automator, I've had to break down applications to see how they're built, to see what they do. So I kind of know enough, but I wouldn't know how to sit down and write the code. Like in this application, we use a service bus in Azure Function. I have no idea how that works. I just told AI I needed a queue, and the queue I have to use is this because that was already defined by someone else. So I just said,
Mm-hmm.
this is the queue I'm using, blah, blah, blah. And it did the rest for me. But then
Mm-hmm.
the bit where I feel we have an advantage is I know how to test queues, right? Because I've tested loads of queues. So while I didn't write the code, for me, that role was no different than John, the developer, writing the code, right? And giving it to me. Here, the agent wrote the code and gave it to me. So, like, you say you don't test your own work, but really it's not my work, right? I'm responsible for it, but it's not my work. So I'm approaching
Mm-hmm.
it with the exact same mindset I've had for the last 15 years and 20 years in software.
Mm-hmm.
This agent is not a real person as such, but it's produced some code. And it's my job to test it.
Mm-hmm.
So I test it and I know how to test it. I'm very comfortable testing it. And if I find a
Mm-hmm.
bug, everyone has been talking about this to me. I know how to go and find the cause of bugs. But now I've got
Mm-hmm.
AI to help me. I can do that quicker and I can get AI to fix it. And then I can retest it. So I can do all these things now in rapid succession. And I can no longer see how software can go back to this handover. We've always moaned about the handovers. But
Mm-hmm.
now, with the help of AI and building AI solutions, that rapid turnaround that an AI engineer can have that can do a bit of everything accelerates you no end. And I felt I've been able to do that better than others. Now, at my company, I know there's a few engineers that have not adapted as well because they like to write the code. That's the
Mm-hmm.
bit that brings them joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't they do test their code, but not in any way near what a tester would do, right? They're a bit more comfortable having other people take a closer look at the code.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in a PR, or maybe it's like end to end test written by somebody else. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not a bad thing. A lot of developers are like that, right? I'm not saying they're bad developers; they're definitely not. But
He totally is.
they're
No, good.
they're used to going, on their iteration of testing as they write their code, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
used to writing a line or a function and being like, "Is that a good function? I reckon I could do that
Yeah.
differently." Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm going to do it differently. And they've almost gone on that quick cycle as they write the code. But
Okay.
now they're producing something, and that's like we're talking like 10, 20 lines at a go. But now they're asking AI to knock something out and it's producing tens, hundreds of lines of changes. And the
Mm-hmm.
mentality to then go and review that is not the same as someone like me or you, where that's kind of what we like. It's what we're used to. They're not
Mm-hmm.
used to having to review hundreds of lines of code in one go or compile it and see if it works or everything else. There's obviously been a push for them to do that, but not a lot of them have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, our roles in the industry and everything around what we do wouldn't be as strong as it is. So I was seeing that pattern. I'm seeing the way my pattern and this project that I'm on has gone incredibly well. And I'm like, and then also the AI engineer on this project picked up a lot of the SO work and picked up a lot of the testing work, which is also quite funny. Like she found more bugs than I found, like from when the thing's packaged and deployed, because my
Mm,
mindset isn't in that space all the time. Like because I am
hmm
building it and testing it at the same time. Again, as we've always said, it's it's a lot harder for you to think about how your software doesn't work if you're the one that designed it and wrote it and spec'd it and wrote the tests for it. So she's been doing a lot of that work. So basically, I saw her playing multiple roles. I've ended up playing multiple roles, and we've been a 4 or 5 person team that's delivered an agent that's saving this company tens of millions. Like that's 5 people produced. Of obviously there's a lot of the people on the client side, but from my company, 5 people, a couple of people thrown in every now and again, like specialists dropped in to help us out and stuff. But we've been able to work as this oiled machine because we've all been utilizing AI. Even the AI
Okay.
specialist utilizes AI. So I feel that I've observed that I'm not saying I'm better than all the other engineers. Well, that's not true. I've observed that I've been able to sidestep into that role very comfortably, and I enjoy it because it feels the same. Yes, I'm developing the code, but it almost feels exactly the same because the code is still being produced by somebody else. I know it's not right because
Mm,
it's me producing it, but AI
hmm
mostly doing the work. But it
Yep.
feels like that, and it doesn't feel very different. And I'm able to iterate and build and test and fix bugs in rapid iteration that a lot of QEs have really loved. Right? You see on posts on LinkedIn that I found a bug and I went in the code base, I fixed it myself, didn't have to log a bug, didn't have to go through triage, all these steps. And you're getting to do that in rapid iteration. So long answer, right? That's how I feel. And I don't see, having spent 15, 16 months building this way, I don't see how it could have been done if I had to hand over, like if there was a dedicated QA on the project. I don't know what they would have done for a lot of their time because there was not build, deploy, build, deploy, build, deploy. There was like periods of just build, and then I don't know how to explain it. You were producing so much in such a short period that you would have overwhelmed a standalone QA. Like the constant switching would just not have worked. Like it just wouldn't
Mm,
scale. Whereas I feel this is the way it scales, where you have unicorn esque people who are good enough at everything, um, and have the support of agents and things like this. But anyway, I don't know why I wrote it,
so
but
so what? I mean, what we could do still, because I know before we started recording, we talked about looking at some of the comment. Like I haven't.
yeah, yeah.
When I read this post, there were not this. There wasn't this much engagement on the post. So, um, but before we do that, because I think this will be relevant to going through the comments. What is it that you wanted to be different? Like, who were you trying to impact with this post? And what is it that you wanted to be different for them after reading it?
I want people to realize that
Who are the
they're
people?
the QE, they
Which
basically the
people?
testing community, right? The QE, the
Okay.
QAs, the SDETs, the people that
Okay.
if this is my assessment of the market. The number of QE QA roles definitely took a massive dip. It feels like it's recovered a little bit, right? But if you go and look at the number of an AI engineer roles that are out there now, it is
Mm-hmm.
rocketed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those people, they couldn't have been doing it for longer than a couple of years, right? Apart from like the actual
Right.
AI specialists, right? But there's people who
Yeah.
say I can build AI solutions that
Right.
aren't full blown machine learning things, right? Just generally
Yep.
coding stuff in an agent harness, agent framework. Testers have been doing that with automation frameworks forever. So I basically was like, look, these roles are dissipating. My assessment of the last 15 months is there's going to be even less, but that doesn't mean that you're done. You've got so many transferable skills, like so many, and the job ends up looking very similar. And I wanted people to realize that, because I get the concern, but also you can't sit there and dwell and hope that the things will like just, fall into place for you, because the industry is moving so fast right now. And I'm trying to like encourage people to be at the forefront of it. Don't hold back. We said this on a few episodes ago. Get out there, play with these tools, realize how similar it is. And don't always listen to people like me, but like I feel like I have enough credibility for people to be like, you know what, if Richard feels that way, there might be something in it. Um so that's what it was aimed at. I want people to realize that the jobs are changing, but like it doesn't mean you got to start again. Like it's not like you're done. You have to start from step one. Absolutely not even remotely close to that. I feel like you're better positioned than a lot of people.
Okay. That sounds very much like the last newsletter that I wrote, which seems like a million years ago. But it's the similar kind of thing. I think the skills are going to be just from a. I don't know if this is good reasoning or not, but essentially what I've been thinking for a long time, even before I started really trying to get my head into understanding what this stuff is. I was just thinking, well, we have Gen AI, we are producing more code, which means the surface area for problems is increasing.
Yep.
That seems fairly intuitive and not too crazy
No,
a
definitely.
conclusion to reach. And
Well,
therefore,
sorry, let me check one caveat, mate. I would say we're producing more code and we're also changing a lot more code than we ever have before.
sure, I think, yeah, yeah. But the point is, with all this code and this increased surface area, testing isn't going away. So if you have any skills or experiences dealing with changing code and handling and managing and mitigating the risks of doing so, I think you can add a lot of value to a team. The question is, can you articulate it in a way that those people will understand that you can help them?
Yep.
But did you want to dive into the comments
Well,
to
just
see if
one
there's
more on
anything
that.
that you wanted to respond to?
Yeah, but just on that basis that you said, so changing the code, absolutely. But also now just changing the prompts. It's the same problem. Like what one word, like we fixed an issue. Well, we've not deployed it at the moment, but we had a line separated list of languages, right, in the prompt.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
German, new line, Dutch, new line, Finnish, new line, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some reason, we're having issues with the Finnish language. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going Finnish.
Is it the last one in the list or something?
No, it's in the middle. But
No.
it's basically AI is going, I think this is Finnish, but Finnish isn't in the list. So we're going to default to English. And I'm like, what are you on about? It's there. It's clearly in the list. Right. So what did I do what did we try with the prompt? We changed it to comma separated.
Mm-hmm.
Problem went away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's looking at the word finish and thinking it means like finish line, like it's the end of the list,
Done. Yeah.
which is interesting, right? But that prompt can just be continuously changed. Like we don't have them, but I've seen prompts that have reply with this kind of JSON. So you can now alter the whole behavior of an app just by altering the prompt. Like, and we've seen things where the prompt, um, you what's the term for it? But you add and remove JSON properties. So some people
Mm-hmm.
code the prompts to send all the JSON that gets delivered in the API to the prompt. Some people
Mm-hmm.
strip it back to only give the LLM what it needs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing inclusive or exclusive removal,
Mm-hmm.
you might leave stuff in you've not realized. And that fundamentally will alter your prompt. So there's
Mm-hmm.
so much little nuances that require this creative, critical thinking that I believe we have advantage of. And again, I think people can do that, but then they never needed to do it or tried doing it to realize they'd be good at it. But yeah, let's
Mm.
have a look. Let's have a look. Well, I think the good one here that came from Stephen Davenport.
Have you read how many of these comments have you read?
Most of them, I think.
Okay, go on then.
But
Just jump in wherever you
Stephen
want.
Davenport one was quite interesting because his reply was, "I don't think quality is evolving. Rather, the perception of how quality is defined is more visible, and you can see that changing." And I agreed on that perception, but my argument was that um, we've been shouting for so long about good testing and good quality and not really been listened to. And now people are trying to do this job themselves, right? Without a testing expertise, right? We've got developers trying to do more testing and lovely and SOs and lots of people trying to do more. And we've solved a lot of the problems that they're facing, right? But we now need to find a way of, like you said, of delivering that message, reframing that message to make people realize that we know what we're talking about and we've done a lot of this work already. So that's what I meant by it's evolving. I don't think there's a lot of new to solve. I think there's a lot of how do we bring all this amazing work this community has done for the last 10 years and distribute it, which is not a new problem. Don't get me wrong. We've been discussing this for years as well, right? But now I feel it's being emphasized because of the way people are building software is changing. And I feel right now is a great opportunity for us to find ways of doing that because we have so much knowledge around testing software that isn't as mainstream as it should be. And he agreed afterwards. He said, "I think we're saying the same thing, just in different ways." So I don't think the work that needs to be done is evolving so much. It's more the way it's communicated, the way it's shared.
You don't think it's
Um,
evolving? That's interesting.
not as much
The
as the
work,
other
I mean.
things. Yeah, not as much as the other things. So I think when it comes to, like, a lot of people talk about AI. So we had this conversation at work today. Like, you hear a lot of people talking about AI systems and how difficult they are to test and so forth, right? But that bit is
Yeah.
really just a call to the LLMs. That standalone call is an API call, but yes, of course, it's completely probabilistic response. But the rest of the system is just queues and APIs and UIs and stuff that we've been solving for ages. Um, we know how to test all that kind of thing, but the actual difference around testing the LLM calls, obviously that's evolving, and there's definitely better ways to do that. But that's more of a testing problem than a quality problem, right? It's slightly different, I feel, and I think the AI
What's
engineering
the
people have
difference there?
solved a lot of the quality issues.
What's the difference there when you're saying it's a testing problem, not a quality problem?
A testing problem from kind of getting the volumes of data and results that you need to assess the quality. I think people know how to assess the quality of an LLM, like as in you base it, the steps that need to be taken, but actually doing that at scale and gathering all the data that you need, and then up front finding out what good looks like, the ground truths, all these things, that kind of is a solved problem, but it's difficult to do. And then when it comes to actually executing the tests, like, that's obviously new, but it's just automation frameworks. And then once you got all the results, I think people know whether the prompt is working or not. Like, is this a good prompt? Is this a good solution? We've not had too many issues around that if we can solve the testing problem. So for me, it is more how you build the tooling and
Don't you
designing of
think?
those tests.
Don't you think that Gen AI introduces different kinds of risks than we have seen in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
And so they would require different approaches to testing than we've been used to up until now.
I think the fundamental thinking of how you go about designing that test is not that different. So, yes, the risks are different. Yes, the context is different, but it is still data goes in and data comes out, right? So I, I I'm not saying it's easy because it's not, but if you've done a lot of exploratory testing, like, whenever you go off the requirements, right, where most people
Mm-hmm.
find the bugs, right, you go off what's written down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's accelerated here. And I think we know how to do it. And also, the AI world has solved a lot of these problems already as well. Like, they have something not to do with ILM calls specifically, but exploratory data analysis. It's basically exploratory testing of data sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you do with an LLM. So if we can solve the testing problem, right? So in my project, I can solve the testing problem of processing 2,000 cases, right? And getting the results, sticking them in a spreadsheet and giving them to the AI specialist. They can now do the data analysis, but they didn't need to learn how to automate that whole process, right? And build the harness to do all that. But now I just give them data and they can now analyze that data and go, 10% of the time we're seeing A as an answer. That's weird. Why is that happening? And then we can go and look and work out why. There we go, debug it, read the prompt, look at the traces, everything else, and work out why we think that's happening. And then we can tweak the prompt, run all the tooling again, essentially run all the tests again, or evals if people want to call them, and go through the same process. So I think with I think it's I don't know if I don't want to say sold, right? But I think we know how to do it all. The way we do it and the when you do it and kind of the toolings you're using are changing. But I don't think the thinking is that different to someone who's been really good at quality engineering. Oh, sorry, really good at testing, sorry. Like, has that critical mindset to identify risks. Because it is just a system. And even more so, it's just a black box as well. Because you, you don't get to see inside it. You just get to see what comes out of it. But yeah, the risks are different. You're right, but I think we know how to do it.
Hmm. Interesting. I'm not sure we do know how to do it yet. I'm not sure. I need to go and think about that some more. But maybe some further comments will spur my thinking. But before we go on to the next comment, Stevie D had a question for you at the end of his, because he replied to your reply, and he's asked a bit of a tangent question. You see it, the visibility and the transparency. Do you
Yeah,
want to answer that now or visit? So what Steve said, he wants to ask a bit of a tangent question. He said, visibility and transparency, are they the currencies we should be spending in this new world? Visibility and transparency, are they the currencies we should be spending in this new world?
my first reaction when I get questions like this is like, do I know the right definitions of these words? um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think visibility, is it is it a new world, right? So how long have we been saying making your work visible? How long have we been saying that you can't be talking about test cases, pass and fails, and defect detection rates, right? You've got
Mm-hmm.
to make the work visible. So you've got to
Mm-hmm.
be able to explain why you tested what you did. What was the risk? What was the intent of that automated test? And even more so, because I know you've been investing a bit more time in this, you've got to make the work visible. So if you're being asked to turn one of your skill sets into a skill or an agent, you have to be able to, explain what's going on and what you're doing and be transparent with those steps because otherwise you're going to
Mm.
miss stuff out. Um, But transparency, what do you think he means by transparency, then?
I don't know. Maybe it's legibility or how easy something is to understand and perceive. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
I think I, th- I think what he's getting at is like, is it
yeah,
accessible?
yeah, yeah,
Not to confuse terms, because that's a thing in its own right, isn't it? But
yeah.
how accessible and consumable is the work that we're doing? Like, how easy is it to tie that narrative between I'm the human. Here's the thing that I did, and here's why you should care about that because it's impacted this thing that you definitely care about.
Absolutely.
Like, how
Yeah.
can you connect all of those things together?
So I just asked
That's
I
what's.
just asked AI while you were talking. So
Oh, did you?
yeah, it was like visibility tells people what is happening. So we definitely need to be doing more of that. And then
Yep.
transparency helps them understand why it matters and helps makes a decision.
Yeah.
So again,
Mm-hmm.
but this for me, nothing new. That's what I mean by I feel we've solved problem. How long have we been saying that you've got to share your testing story? How long have we been pushing? Hype Scopes has been talking about this for years, decades.
Yeah. There have been people talking about this. Hype's definitely one of them. Keith the Legend is another one.
But sorry, what I mean is, and I
Um,
feel now talking from a very privileged position because I've been so exposed to the community, right?
mm,
I agree these things aren't en masse, right? The whole industry doesn't know about them. But like when I messaged this, I was kind of talking about it as in the you know people following Richard and who have been around the testing scene and conferences and stuff. We've been
mm,
exposed to a lot of this. You may not have
mm,
studied it in depth yourself, right? But we've been exposed to a lot of this, and there is material out there that I met when I said we need to resurface a lot of this stuff. It is out there, but I do agree now when I've reread what Stephen said. Like we definitely need to be um, sharing a lot more of the testing that's been done, how it's been done, and why it matters. And again, I have people on my project that are like, this is a bug. I'm like, well, who does it bug? Like, as in,
mm-hmm,
like, why have you logged the bug? Like, what do you think is wrong here? Why does it matter that this is a bug? What's the impact? And
mm-hmm,
especially when it comes to the AI systems, right? Because again, 7 out of 10 times you will get answer A, and 3 of the times you're going to get answer B. Now,
mm-hmm,
in this space, is that a problem? Depends
mm-hmm.
what you're building, right? Is the 3 times that you get B going to cause someone to lose millions of pounds or impact their health or make a bad decision or risk their life? Or is it just going to mean that you get a crappy email? Like, you know,
But also, but
th-
on top of that, if that percentage changes, is that important?
absolutely. Yeah.
Because there's
Which is
model
why you
drift, which is a thing, right? And so maybe that impacts the behavior. So maybe that 70-30 goes 65-35, or maybe it goes 55-45. And like when do you kind of say this is we need to like not go ahead with this change or not make this version of the thing available or
this is exactly
whatever.
what you're
How
you're
does
describing. You're describing evals. Like that is the whole designing of a
Yeah, I know.
test. So that percentage, and again, I feel like I don't think I'm doing a very good job of saying that we know these things, right? But the conclusion of that eval is what I would call an oracle, right? How we go
Mm-hmm.
and source that oracle is very different. We're used to having oracles handed to us. In the AI space, it's a little different. We need to work together with the AI people and the business to understand some of these
Yeah.
oracles.
Okay.
Um, but the then process of building it, you're basically building a regression suite. Is this critical enough to know in the future if this ever drifts? But then also, when you think of the LLM calls, a standalone prompt that has nothing different in it will never drift, right? Unless you change model, the models don't change. Right? The models are versioned, right? So you might get like um, you might get like variations in the response, right? But a lot of the time, it will be quite solid. But if you have parameters in your prompt that like here's the email I want you to analyze, or here's the customer's credit history, or whatever, right? If you get variables like that, then the whole thing can go ski whiff, right? But if you're
Is
only
that is
changing a handful of inputs, it won't drift as much as people think. It's only if you suddenly change it. But then this becomes
well
back
that's
to
what
But one sec, this is like what's the word we used to call, like boundary analysis, right? I know it's not boundary
Mm,
analysis, but it's very similar. Here's a
mm.
variable. What could that variable look like? The variable is an email. Okay, well, how big can an email be? The same heuristics we've had forever are no different here. Like, could the email be 10 characters, a million characters? How many attachments could you have? Could it be written in, if I wrote it in a really angry manner, will that change the LLM's response? Like,
So that's what I
literally,
was.
will it get its back up and be like, fuck off, Richard? Like, what are you saying to me?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask is because, or point out is that I think it's risky, to say that this thing is a black box, and we can be certain about what changes are important and which ones are not
Yeah.
when we're changing a prompt or the date or whatever it happens to be. Now, I'm
If
not
we're
an
changing
expert
it,
in
I
this stuff.
agree. No, if we're
I'm not an
changing
expert.
it,
I'm not an expert in this stuff. So maybe I might have been using the right vocabulary, or maybe
yeah.
the thing I'm talking about is sounding quite naive to somebody who is well versed in this stuff. But yeah, I found it interesting the way that you put that. I have to go away and think about that some more. I think. Mm,
So, like, for
okay.
me, like, when I talk about drift, like, unless you switch an underlying model, the drift will usually come from the words that get in, right? So it all becomes about how that prompt can get changed. So obviously, if you're going to change the
Mm-hmm.
wording, you will get different behavior, right? But if the
Right.
wording stays consistent and the input data is the thing that changes, we get to apply a lot of the thinking that we've done in the past, right? Where we get to try different data types, do different things. And I think on one of our episodes, like sometime earlier this year, I joked about the fat controller heuristic, right? Because my kid watches Thomas the Tank Engine all the time. And the fat controller, I don't think
Oh
you're allowed to
God.
call him that anymore, are you,
Oh,
actually?
that's why I'm laughing. I'm like, I haven't
What's
heard
his
that
new
term.
what's his
I
new
haven't heard
PC
that
name?
term in years.
Um
Damn.
well, it still says that on
Really? I thought
Wikipedia.
it was changed. I thought it was
Oh,
changed, man.
I don't know. That's what it says on. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because hang on, let's find out now because we've started this journey. What's he called? Oh, now they've just given him a name. He's now called Topham Hat. Sir Topham Hat.
Let's go with that. That's much more, palatable.
But there's a
Bloody hell.
character in Thomas the Tank Engine called Sir Topham Hat, and he
Mm.
talks a lot about causing confusion and delay. So one of the issues we
He
discovered,
does.
yeah.
He
So
does. Well.
one of the issues, that's why I called it that heuristic, because one of the
Confusion and
things we
delay.
found,
What a legend.
it wasn't so much drift, but if we sent very complex cases into the agent, and in our
Mm-hmm.
world at the moment, that's an email, right? So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the emails that come in are very simple. Like, I want my order, I want to place an order, where is my order, blah, blah, blah,
That's
where's
what
my
I mean.
invoice? But if we send in, because our input is an email, right? So obviously the variation on that is huge. But if we send
Correct.
in a very complex case, and it can cause confusion. But what we actually did, this is a fun one, but kind of ties back to what I said about data. In the prompt, we told it, you need to use value A and value B to help you make a decision, right? But then we changed the API. So value A and value B were no longer in the payload. They were now called C and D. But we didn't change the prompt. So the prompt then was basically spinning and spinning
Baffled.
and spinning, trying to work out what the hell value A and B is and what the hell
Mm-hmm.
it's meant to do. And we also
Mm-hmm.
had the same bug where we told it to reply in certain fields. So stick to this schema, right? But
Yep.
one of the fields in the schema was no longer referenced in the prompt. So it spent ages trying to work out what should go in this field because it
Delay.
hadn't been told, causing confusion and delay. So that's why I like the heuristic. But anyway, I don't know if you want to jump to another one. before we.
Yeah, you pick them. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure. No, I've set up my light right in front of the flipping. Okay.
Rashik had a good one. Like he says, he shares the optimism. I agree with that. The part that he's concerned about is wearing more hats. Like, how do you maintain a consistent view of like quality and risk if everyone's kind of taking responsibility for it? But again, I don't feel that there is. I don't think that there suddenly isn't a quality strategy, right, or a testing strategy. There still is. That there has to be by somebody. It's just more distributed work.
Now, my experience, which I really need to write about over the past 3 to 6 months, is relevant here because you've got organizations approaching this in different ways because their contexts are different. So obviously they're going to approach it in different ways. So where I work, we've had what feels like what's becoming quite a typical AI first mandate from ELTs and SLTs. And essentially what you've got is that sets the hairs off racing. So everyone is doing stuff.
Yep.
And as I've said in other episodes, essentially this stuff is like a Swiss Army knife for everything. It's like it's first line support for any and all topics in your life. It's that malleable, and it's almost, well, not even almost, the demand being placed on the demands that companies are placing on their employees is that they are absolutely becoming way more generalist than they were before. And I think what Rashik's comment makes me, think about, I think it resonates with me because now you've got, we're talking about testing and quality, and let's say there's a team that has testing and quality problems.
Mm-hmm.
But, a developer has a particular subset that they're experiencing and that they care about. And a product owner has some as well. And maybe the designer has some as well. And everybody has these different perspectives on what we would just put under the umbrella of testing and quality.
Yeah.
That's the elephant in the story of the three blind men in the elephant. But everyone else is going, oh, well, I'm dealing with a leg. So I think this is a pillar, so I'm going to deal with that. And someone else says, oh, this is a bit of string, it's the tail or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So and who is like stepping back and saying, hold on, this thing is connected to that thing. We should probably collaborate and consolidate the work. I think it's easy for that not to happen.
Absolutely.
Because of the mandates and the level of urgency that's being communicated to people in teams. Certainly like that in my organization. It's like, hey, we got to do this, man. We've got to get moving. Like our competition's trying to come and get our lunch. We're doing some great work. We need to maintain our advantage, etc., etc. There's all these good reasons why people at the top of the food chain are saying, we've got to do this stuff, we've got to do this stuff, we've got to do this stuff. And people are responding and they're doing stuff, but it isn't necessarily in a coordinated way. Because the minute you say, let's just take a pause and do this properly, there's a feeling that you won't be given that time. And that could be right or wrong, by the way. It's not even that I'm not even saying it's definitely right. That might be untrue. They may be incorrect. But I think that is a thing. And I think that's what Rashik is getting at. I think, at least that's been my experience. It's very, very easy to have a group of people who, because reasons, maybe it's because they're high agency, maybe it's because they are, there's this prospect of losing your job if you don't do the thing. So like, well, I've got to do something. Otherwise, I'm going to get fired. This is not the market to be looking for a job in. That's like, I've got to do some stuff. And there's not that can we like coordinate a bit, please?
Yeah,
Can we
agreed.
do
Yeah,
that?
definitely. Well,
It
this
might be
ties.
different in your context
Well, that's the thing.
because your context is a bit different, right? What's it like in your
Yeah,
context? Because you're in a consulting. I'm with a client, so there's a certain level of alignment there. It's like the goal is clear, the success criteria is clearer, maybe
mm.
not clear. I've worked in consultancies. Let me just row that back a bit. Do you know what I mean? What's it like in your context?
And before I answer that, I'm just going to quickly jump to Jason's because I'm going to try and answer both, right? So Jason says, look, I
Are they the
agree.
same?
Kinda. So it's about
Jason Smith?
yeah, the responsibility gets distributed, right, but the accountability doesn't. So all this work's being
Correct.
spread, right, but ultimately someone usually still has to have their head underneath the guillotine, right, for when things go wrong.
But you see,
Now,
that's the problem, you see. Anyway, go on.
on my context, in consultancy, obviously we're responsible for the delivery to some extent, right? But obviously the client themselves are more responsible. So on the context I'm in, they do have their own testing that happens, right? But it is very much at the end. It's very traditional waterfall. We've spent months building this thing, iterating, we give it to them, and they have a 2-week period of testing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if this is going to be the case, right? But one thing I do feel that's worked really well on my project, as I said, there's only been really a handful of us. Like we're talking 4 or 5 people at most times. And I think that changes that narrative about how we all do the things together and how you stay consistent. Because we're not a big
That
team of 10 or 20. There's 5 of
that is
us.
one of the patterns that I'm seeing people talk about, is that
Exactly.
you don't have, the teams aren't as big,
They're not.
and therefore there are some categories of problem or challenge that go away or maybe get smaller, if not completely disappear.
I think that's true, right? So I'm not. I agree with him, right? And I think in a different context, it would be very different. But in our context, there's 4 or 5 of us at most. We're very communicative, very collaborative. Um, Stand-ups are very much about the genuine problems, not looking at tickets, because there isn't really a concept of managing this big backlog because we're burning through stuff so quickly. It is kind of very much a collaborative thing all the time. And then I feel like just last one about that accountability. Agreed again, like someone usually is responsible. I don't know how that's going to go, right? But I can't see there being test managers and quality managers. I think it's going to be more engineering managers that, again, they also have to wear many hats, and that in itself is going to prove a problem because they can't all wear. They're going to have to be the quality expert, this expert, that. So, one thing I've been discussing today at Slalom at my employer is like, I feel like that engineering manager role is going to be very important, but I feel like they need to be surrounded by coaches. And I think we spoke about this a couple of episodes ago. I feel that a company is definitely going to still need a quality coach or a quality specialist, and they kind of get distributed across the teams. If you're a bigger company, kind of get distributed across the team. At the center of it, they're kind of really helping, and maybe an EM be that accountable person. But that EM doesn't have to be the jack of all trades, right? They can bring in those company wide specialists when they need to. That's kind of how I feel it should go. I could be completely wrong, but
The thing to remember about distribution of responsibility is that depending on the product or service that you are responsible for, that you are responsible for building, is that the quality of that thing might not just sit with you and your team, your your pod, as we're starting to call them where I work, and I've seen other people use that term out in the wild. So in other words, will there be a single pod at Amazon that builds everything, no.
No.
There'll be bunches of pods
Uh-huh.
solving different problems, and within their pod, life will be amazing. Better than it has been in the before times, because everyone will be working so closely together, and they'll be small, maybe even as small as 1 or 2 people. I think 5 is probably the upper limit that is going to happen going forward. But the thing is, they're not the only pod that impacts the quality of the product or service that your customers and clients are experiencing. And I think that's the thing that Rashik is talking about.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's the thing that Jason is talking about. It's like, who's responsible for that? Now, my feeling would be it's still the people that it always has been. I'm looking at you, ELT. Right? So in other words, it's, or here's the challenge. You can be, I can't remember I was talking to James about James Thomas, friend of the pod. Shout out to you, James. I hope you still listen. Hope you made it past the football. There's a dynamic in a lot of teams and a lot of organizations where somebody is made, what, I'm gonna get this the wrong way around. It's like they are made responsible for the outcome,
Uh-huh.
but are not able to decide what tools they use to make the outcome happen,
Right.
which is shit.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're given no authority, no budget, no. But it's like, but you've still got to make the impossible happen. That is shit and isn't
Yeah.
sensible and isn't logical. And really, in the situation, it's almost like an abdication of duty in a lot of ways. Like, the people above that person, they're the ones that are responsible and accountable, because they've got to set that person up for success. Now, the reality is, they can still just say, nah, I don't care. Like, I'm giving you the shit rolls in one direction, I'm afraid. So good luck with your thing. I'll be
Yeah.
waiting for the results. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is the reality of the situation in a lot of places. But yeah, I think, and I'm really not trying to be flippant, I think it's the same people that it's always has been. Who is in charge? They are responsible. They are accountable.
Yeah.
If they want to devolve some of that responsibility and accountability to others, distribute it, if you will, they can do that, but that needs to be
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
And it needs to be, again, because it's like super difficult, because now everyone is their own factory as an individual.
As an individual. Yeah.
Right? As an individual. So let's say you had an engineering department of 100 people, but they were in teams of 10. So you had 10 factories. Now you've got 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
all need to be coordinated
Yep.
for a singular positive outcome for customers and clients. That is fucking hard work there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's going to change how you do the work. And if you want to start proposing, if you, who is not in a director level position or a C-suite level position, are like, we need to change how we work here. And instead of trying to convince, I mean, it's still 100 people, but the dynamics of it are different. Because you're trying to influence 10 teams. Now you're trying to influence 100 teams.
Yep.
That's really bloody hard. Like, how do you do that without just being able to just dictate and say, right, this is how we're working now. It's not long-lived teams anymore, because that doesn't make sense in a world where we can all start shipping stuff. So what are we going to do instead? Because that's another thing that we're trying where we work. Splitting up how we deliver stuff and the teams, what do they look like, etc., etc.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but one thing that I do feel is going to help, and it's a couple of episodes back where we talked about the tooling that is now possible in quality engineering, because we can talk to an LLM, right, and have it assess stuff. So to keep those standards across a board, I think it was always a people problem, right? And it always will be a people problem. But the
You hope.
ability, the ability, yeah, the ability now though to build tooling that maintains standards is a lot stronger than it has been, right? Because, like, for example, if you agreed that our company writes JIRA tickets this way, there hasn't been a tool that would allow you to assess that continuously at scale because someone had to read the ticket. So now you could build an agent that literally, as soon as a ticket is made, reads it and sends it back. There could be
Here's a question.
note-taking, meeting sessions. There's so many more things that can be built. I'm not saying we should build them,
But
but
here's a
they
question,
could
right?
be built.
True. But we had that on the dev side, right? With like linters and things. And people would turn them off or mess with the rules because it was
I
like,
was going to say the
this is
same.
a
You
ball
can.
ache. I am
Yeah.
trying to fucking ship this thing, and you keep telling me, oh, you've not put a fucking semicolon in the right place. You're like,
But
you
one.
know what I mean?
So I agree,
It's still,
right? But
it's still. Ultimately, it's what you said. It becomes a human problem still.
it
You can,
does
you can still create a tool to detect
exactly.
and attempt to enforce, but there's still a human
Yeah.
on the other end of that potentially, who at some point that's going to piss off. But we got to remember that our teams are now not just 100% human. So maybe it's not as big a deal because maybe our robot teammates are able to just, oh, cheers for telling me, other robot teammate. I will now go and make the necessary changes and just get on with it. Do you know what I mean?
It could be that. I don't know. I just like I do feel that there's a bigger opportunity in tools. Yes, people can turn it off, but um, I feel that the speed they're going to run, the quicker that we talk a lot in testing about feedback, right? You're going to get that feedback really quickly, which might make it not as tedious. It's really annoying when you've spent a day doing something and someone comes along and goes, "Oh, by the way, blah blah blah." Right? If you can get that feedback a lot quicker now, maybe that will change that mentality. But also, you mentioned people turning stuff off. Yeah, they do, but at some point that comes to bite you, right? Because again, I feel right now the best teams, and I've seen a lot of engineers post about this, are the ones that kept those standards. They were non-negotiable.
Oh yeah, you
No,
got to eat the
that's
pain.
not
You got
that
to
was
eat the
not the right
pain.
that was not the right way to say that word. But like they were
What did you say?
non-negotiable about. I said that I couldn't say negotiable, but they were non-negotiable about how they wrote software and built software. And again, I
You got
think
to,
you've
yeah.
got to. And I think now with AI, it's going to be so much easier to be caught out when you don't, especially if companies do build that. Again, we talk a lot about pipelines and, you know, we talk a lot about like build pipelines, right? But again, I'm not saying it's a new thing, or I don't even know if it's a term people are using yet, but you can almost build a quality pipeline now. Like you could have a full on automated quality pipeline that is constantly checking things that you've agreed to. Like I said, are docs written? Are they written well? Are tickets written this way? What are the metrics? What are this? Analyze these signals. You couldn't do that kind of analysis before without a person having to do it. But now that person can codify a lot of that, not away completely, but you could codify a lot of that because you have the LLM's interpretation. Again, not saying the LLM's foolproof, but prior to this wave, you needed a person to analyze those results or those numbers or look at the work or look at the tickets. We can now have tooling do that at scale, at pace,
But
which I think is going to
but
change a lot of these behaviors. Or maybe
but
humans just go, nah, turn it off. Don't like it.
I think I think this is what this comes back to what Jason was talking about, because I I reckon what will happen is, because ultimately, because these tools that we're using, these things that we're using, are non-deterministic in nature. One thing that they're going to do is hallucinate.
Yeah.
You've got the jagged frontier problem that we've talked about before, and so you've got this combination of, because it's mostly right most of the time, because of the volume of output, you're not necessarily going to review everything. Do you know what I mean? And so
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
there might come a time where you trust it when you shouldn't have trusted it, and then boom, there's a problem. Then what happens? Do you get to say, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't write the auto drive system. Elon Musk did, so it's his problem. Like no,
Don't know.
you were in control of the vehicle. Like it's you.
Yeah.
Same with the software. It's like, well, the AI said that it was fine. It's like unlucky. Until AI becomes actually self-aware and autonomous and can be sued, we need a human to blame, and that's you.
I agree. But I think at the moment, there's opportunities to build a lot more of that in. Think about monitoring, alerting, observability, but of the way we work, because these tools have come out. But I have to wrap this up because I have
I was
places
going to
to
say,
be.
you got to go, Richie Rich. You got shit to do.
Yeah. But no, I really enjoyed it. And again, this is just to go back to the original post. This is why I'm excited, because yes, there's a lot of change, but it feels, I don't know, it feels new and engaging to me, and there's new problems to solve. It's like, as someone who's literally at my core, I'm a problem solver. There's new problems to solve. I'm an automator at my core, and there's a lot of opportunities to automate more stuff than we have before. I'm a QE at my core, and we talk a lot about signals and metrics, and they've not been possible to do at a scale, and now it is. So I feel that a lot of the stuff we've said works and should work has an opportunity to be implemented en masse now and on scale that may have better, may not. It may just all fall back to the same crap, right? But there's a new wave of things to try, and that's what I'm kind of excited about. And I think companies are going to want to try these things. But yeah, these comments are valid, absolutely. But we're in a moment of change, and it feels exciting to me. I get it's not for a lot of people because their contexts are very different, but I'm trying to keep a positive spin on it and say, look, there's a lot of change coming, and it is exciting.
That you know, I was talking to a friend of mine today. Downsizing, layoffs, redundancies have hit their organization. They've been caught up in it. They are in a QE role. They are being asked to reapply for software engineering roles. The market wants what it wants,
Yeah.
but does it know what it needs? I think these two things, we're going to be wrestling with them for a while, but in the meantime, these are the thorny questions we've got to wrestle with. But
Absolutely. All
Rich
right.
has got to go.
I hope you enjoyed it
So
all.
let's wrap it up, people. If you got any questions for me or Rich on this topic, you got any questions? If you want to go
Share
and
your
add some more
thoughts.
comments
Yeah, absolutely.
to his post,
all the video,
please do it. Hit us up. If you're going to post about it yourself or react to it, please share the tag, share the links to it, and we would love to see it and react to it ourselves.
Yeah. Just to be clear on that, I'm not thinking I'm right. I'm not thinking I know what the future is. I'm just sharing what I'm doing now, and I'd love for people to share how they're viewing it, because the more we share, the more we can see what's going on and help each other. But yeah, thank you all for listening. Enjoy the episode. Remember to subscribe, and see you next time.
Like and subscribe. Peace out, y'all.